Drew Brees almost didn't play for the New Orleans Saints. This is Bussin' with the Boys, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So one of the greatest butterfly effects in the history of sports is Drew Brees, Miami, and New Orleans, and how this all played out. Now, the way that I've always heard it, and we'll see if Drew kind of corroborates with this, but the way I always heard it was that, so let's paint the picture, okay? Brees gets hurt in San Diego. They draft Phillip Rivers. So Brees has got to go somewhere. San Diego is moving on from him, and there's a real question of if he'll ever be the same because of the injury, all right? So Miami has Nick Saban. Nick Saban is the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Sean Payton is about to begin his tenure or his legacy or his era, whatever, in New Orleans. Brees goes to Miami, and Brees has already had his surgery. He's already done what he's had to do. He goes to Miami, and he is going to sign with the Dolphins. It's done and dusted. Brees fails the physical in Miami, and the Dolphins, not Nick Saban, but the Dolphins team doctor fails him, and the Dolphins say it ain't happening to Nicholas. Now then, Nicholas and the Dolphins agree to not release that information, because if they say that he failed the physical, who the hell is going to sign him, right? So that is kind of hush-hush. Brees goes to New Orleans, and New Orleans signs him. Brees reluctantly, I don't want to say reluctantly, but Brees now is signing with the team, and he famously talks about riding from the airport in the limousine and seeing the destruction of Hurricane Katrina. And he talks about that. So Brees has to go to New Orleans, all right? We all know its history there. Now here's the butterfly effect. Brees goes to New Orleans, completely changes his career, completely changes the history of the New Orleans Saints, wins a Super Bowl, catapults Sean Payton to be one of the greatest coaches ever, certainly during that era. In Miami, Nick Saban's only there for 2 years. So then Saban goes to Alabama. So it changes the Dolphins. So the Dolphins kind of, are what they are. They lose Saban. But it also alters the landscape of college football. If Drew Brees goes to Miami, the Dolphins are fine. They have a franchise quarterback. They have Drew Brees. Nick Saban is probably an NFL head coach moving forward. He probably does not go to college. He certainly doesn't go to college as quickly as he does. Alabama does not become Alabama. The complete college landscape, the SEC, everything is shifted. Now, Nick Saban is at Miami for 2 years. First year he goes 9-7. I think the second year he goes 6-11. Instead of having Drew Brees, do you know, trivia question, who was the starting quarterback at Miami those 2 years? It was two different players. The first year, the 9-7 year, it was Gus Frerotte. The second year was Joey Harrington. So he went from having Drew Brees to Gus Frerotte and Joey Harrington. Insane what that failed physical did for the NFL, for the Miami Dolphins, for the New Orleans Saints, for the University of Alabama, for the SEC, for the college football landscape as a whole. Because then what happens? ESPN, right, all of a sudden buys the SEC or gets the TV rights or whatever. Do they do that without those Alabama teams? Do they do that without those players and storylines and all that? And how about this? What happens to the AFC East? What was happening in the wake of all this? Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady goes on his generational run, career-defining run, whatever, with the Patriots. However many AFC title games and however many AFC East championships. Well, imagine if you've got Brady and Brees in the same division, and then you also have Peyton Manning and Indy. So you'd have Brady, Brees, and Manning all in the AFC, not even counting Roethlisberger, not even counting the other teams in the AFC at the time. But you got Brady and Brees rotating AFC divisions more than likely. And the winner of that gets to then handle Peyton Manning. Insane.
I got kind of a two-parter here because we kind of brushed over the insurance policy a little bit. I want to know like who you talked to in that process, how long of a thought process it was before you're like, listen, $5 million sounds great, but I'm gonna keep betting on me. And then also, how did we get to New Orleans from having the shoulder surgery, playing your last game as a Charger?
Yeah. Well, it's a main conversations were with my wife and then with my agent. So my agent was Tom Condon.
Shout out Tom. Same.
Old Tommy. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I think it was, with Tom, like, man, Tom was always so just kind of poised, even keel. Like Tom, I always felt like, you talk about an agent, you just feel like has your back, man, at all times. And like I think as devastated as we all were that I was just in that situation, I think Tom, if anything, gave me a ton of belief that that I could come back and not only play but play at a high level, and so it was just reinforcing what I wanted to hear. I just wanted to feel like I just had everybody in my camp, and everybody that was there to help push me to be, the best that I could be, but certainly, just be unwavering, in that belief. And he was one of those guys, of course, my wife. And so, yeah, I think at the end of the day, it became an easy decision. Like I'll always regret if I don't, make a run at it, but I think all that is to say that, like, just the reality of the situation with my shoulder. Like, if you ask Dr. Andrews, he would tell you that he didn't think I was going to be able to come back and play again.
Right.
Even though he put it back together.
See, that part is a bit of a point of contention because I believe Saban has come out and said that Andrews gave him the all good. And so Saban had full faith before the Dolphins team doctors. And I have heard that Andrews told Saban, like, yeah, man, he'll be fine.
As good as he possibly could. He's like, just the probabilities are not good.
Yeah.
He had never seen that injury in a throw, ever. Like, that was a bull rider's injury.
Mm-hmm.
When a bull rider gets his arm caught in the rope, this is what he told me. That's when he sees the dislocation out of the bottom, right? That's gnarly, man. That's gnarly.
Jesus Christ.
360-degree tear of the labrum. So I had 13 anchors in my shoulder.
Damn.
Like, literally, I would do rehab, and it would sound like a cold rubber band. It was these anchors in my shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, just ringing in my ear. Dude, that's like a vivid memory of rehab.
And context for people, I tore my shoulder as well, and it works like a clock. Like, I had 12, like 13 is something extra has to be happening to your shoulder for him to have 13 anchors.
But here's the crazy too. So Zach Thomas had surgery the same day that I did with a similar injury.
Former Dolphins linebacker, superstar.
But you guys playing linebacker, they're going to fix you differently.
Right. They're not fixing you to do the same thing. Right. A linebacker, a lot of linebackers will play through like torn rotator cuffs and play through stuff like that because their arm doesn't have to do obviously what a quarterback's does.
Because you're not required to have all this external rotation.
Right.
Like,
we'll have tightness for our lives. Yeah.
They're going to tighten you guys up, right? Because you don't need all that, right?
We're just right here.
But yeah, exactly. But for a QB, rotational athlete needing all this external, internal, like it's got to be stable enough, but loose enough, So it's like it's walking this delicate line, right? Then through the rehab process, it's just about building the strength in and around that joint to protect it. But I mean, it was like a work of art as I think about what Dr. Andrews had to put back together and perform.
Dude, that is incredible. Again, like you giving that perspective too, like I'm not even thinking about it on Zach Thomas, like having similar surgeries and they got to do it a little bit differently because of quarterback, linebacker, and everything else, and just you still overcoming that. And I appreciate you sharing all that with us too, because I know, like if you're young, like I'm 36, I want to say you started to take off when I was like in high school, right? Like wasn't it like when you're having like the 4,000 yard seasons? Isn't that around like what 07, 08, 06 maybe?
Yeah.
I mean that whole. I mean, it's a long stretch, but from 05 to 2019.
06 was our first year with the Saints, and that was really the start of the run.
So
the ramp up.
even at my age, like I remember, like there were a couple moments where I'm getting reminded that you played on the San Diego Chargers. I'm getting reminded your actual labrum story came up during my rehab process on just guys. It was like you. I want to say Rich Gannon was another one. But you're like learning about these things about like Drew Brees that everybody knows of as a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like anybody young that just watched you, basically your Saints days, has really, they could be hearing this for the first time.
Yeah, it is kind of insane that Brees had this on the beginning of where he's the most known. Like when you think about Drew Brees, you think about his time with the Saints, obviously. But it's crazy that this surgery didn't happen, and then he had his final 5 years with the Saints. Like this happened before he goes on what is his most career-defining time.
And just be thinking, oh shit, he played on. It's always he played on the Chargers. Oh shit, Phillip Rivers was a backup to him for a couple years. Oh, he was behind Doug Flutie, like the Drew Brees that we all know right now.
Right.
It's crazy. So I appreciate you walking us down those old memories.
Yeah, that's a little bit of memory lane there. But man, every one of those. Look, I consider myself really lucky from a coaching perspective. I had Joe Tiller in college, who was so influential for me. Marty Schottenheimer with the San Diego Chargers, Sean Payton with the New Orleans Saints. So pretty rare that you would just have, that level of stability, at each level. And each one of those guys, I just have lessons that continue to ring in my ear, each and every day, especially as now I'm coaching and I'm coaching my kids and other kids. And just, a lot of my style has been modeled off of those guys.
Yeah, we have a lot of guys. We have Clay Matthews on one of our locker room show that comes out on Thursdays, and we also and just hearing about these coaches and how their approach to these kids. What is your approach with your children? Are you hardest on your kids, a little easier on the other kids?
We have Greg Olson. He's coaching his boys.
Greg Olson.
School.
They actually just won. They went 8-0.
I love watching Greg's stuff. I know. The irony is he's coaching middle school football.
Greg Olson. I will say this, man. He's a real student of the damn game. I mean, I respect the hell out of what Olson's doing. I like him as an announcer, but when he talks about the game, and even with the tight end stuff, but also like the other stuff he's doing. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, I don't know if he wants to, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he got into some kind of a high level coaching position or a high level, whatever advisor role with the team or front office, but. He's in it.
I was coaching my 8th grade Pop Warner son this year, and I coached Pop Warner the last 2 years too for my freshman son. It's I would say my style. Well, first off, I think it's very hard for a parent to coach your kids because it is very natural to try to overcoach them, right? It's like you feel like every lesson that comes to your mind to teach them, you just like, bah. It's just coming out at all times. And you want to coach them like on every play. And that's where it just becomes difficult, is blurring those lines between like dad in the house and then, I'm your coach. I can't tell you how many times I've had to look my son in the eye and say, hey, son, like right now, I am your coach. I'm not your dad. Okay. I'm your coach. So listen to me, right? do what I say.
Yeah.
But I'd say this, like overall, I'd say I'm pretty intense. But I try to be intense with my praise as much as I am intense with my correction, right? So it's not just one-sided. I would say I also try to really put each kid in the best position to succeed, and try to find moments where you can put them in a position where you are able to give them praise. I find that so many of these kids, like, to watch their growth from the start of the year to the end of the year, like, is monumental. And I think that's where we see the sport of football as just being like this creator of men, right? And good young men. There's just so many life lessons to be learned through the sport. And it's almost like you're just looking for those moments that you can set up in practice or in a game that you can immediately spin back to being a life lesson. And then I think like that recap at the end of every practice and the recap at the end of every game are probably some of my favorite moments. You know, it's like, hey, you kind of go around the circle, all the coaches, hey, what did we learn today? And man, you just try to take something that happened in practice and then bring it back to life, right? Like the effort of some kid or, you know, whatever it might be. Like I find that those are the most valuable parts of coaching these young kids.
I love it. So we broke down the shoulder thing a little bit. Now we're in the process. You're going this eight month rehab where we don't know if you can play again. You've ripped up the insurance policy. Your wife's like, I believe in you. Tom Condon's like, I believe in you. Tom Condon's paid to believe in you, yet you still believe that he believes in you.
Sidebar: if you were a wrestling fan in the '90s, so the insurance policy was a big thing with wrestling too, and a lot of wrestlers medically retired, because they had these huge insurance policies, what I believe the Lords of London. And when wrestling took off in the late 90s, all of them immediately unmedically retired and tried to come back. And that's why, if you were a fan, a bunch of wrestlers just disappeared, and then boom, all of a sudden they're trying to wrestle again and trying to get involved again. So those insurance policies are a thing across all sports.
How is he going out, and what other teams is he talking to that ended up you going to the New Orleans Saints?
Yeah. I would say because of the just, you know, unknowns with the shoulder and the fact that I think word had gotten out that, you know, I had a 25% chance of coming back and playing. You know, that was what the Miami Dolphins doctors had assessed with me. And they had told Nick Saban that. They had told the organization that. Because at the end of the day, it came down to the New Orleans Saints and the Miami Dolphins as being the two teams that were trying to bring me in as the starter. There was a lot of teams that were like, hey, we'll bring you in as basically like a backup and let's just see what you got, right? Let's see if you can come back. But the Saints and the Dolphins were the only two that were coming after me to be their starting quarterback.
But think about that. So a physical is what you do after the deal. Like, you don't do a physical and then they think about if they're going to sign you. It's like you get the contract drafted, you are going to be on that team, all that stuff's over with, then you do the physical to make sure they're not missing anything. He was going to be a Miami Dolphin. Like, make no mistake about it. He was going to Miami. And then at the 11th hour, the physical comes in, he's not. So then he doesn't have a choice. Then it is just the Saints. Because like he just said, everywhere else is a backup. So he's almost forced. Well, he is forced. He is forced to go to New Orleans. And the rest is history. And Miami has to deal with Gus Frerotte. And then Nicholas is in Alabama. And, I mean, just not to be, you know, hyperbolic. And I ain't talking time chambers. When you think about this one decision of Miami ruling out Brees, think about what that changed for the city, the entire city of New Orleans. Think about what that changed for all of the players. Marcus Colston, Lance Moore, all these guys. Think about what it did for Nick Saban. Think about what it did for Miami. Think about what it did for the universities of not just Alabama, but the entire SEC. Then think about what it did for all of those recruits. Think about all of the players who went through Alabama, who did what they did at Bama and then got shots in the NFL or whatever. Think about the assistant coaches who were under Saban's tree, who then became head coaches in other colleges or got shots in the NFL or whatever. This, like the tendrils of this decision is crazy. Crazy. And then again, like you factor in Tom Brady and the Patriots and the Dolphins and all that stuff, like it's just wild, the butterfly effect that this had. I mean, it really is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if this is the first time you heard all this or if you knew this or whatever. Did I miss anything? Did I miss any of the dominoes and the butterfly effect of how this would have changed everything? All right. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you in the next video.